Discover the heartwarming journey, from invisible beggar to millionaire. After mourning his son's tragic loss, Jack Thompson used to be the embodiment of the American dream. At 45, he had it all: a beautiful family, a thriving business, and a smiling son named Timmy. That was until the day everything changed. In a heartbeat, a devastating car accident stole his boy, leaving a gaping hole in Jack's world. The vibrant laughter of Timmy echoed in his ears, now silenced by the crushing weight of grief. Stripped of purpose, Jack meandered the streets of his small Midwestern town, a ghost of the man he once was. The diner that held sweet memories of ice cream sundaes with Timmy became his refuge and prison, where he drowned in the flavor of sorrow. Winter's chill settled in like a familiar blanket of despair, and Jack's days blurred into a haze. Then came Caroline, a resilient single mother who wrestled against the icy grip of poverty while trying to care for her two daughters. One fateful morning, their paths crossed outside the diner. Her cheeks were flushed, teeth chattering, yet her spirit illuminated the cold surroundings. Jack noticed as she handed her last coins to a hungry child. It struck a chord deep within him, whispering echoes of Timmy's laughter and the kindness he once cherished. Jack's heart fluttered, a flicker of compassion slowly warming his frozen soul. The touch of Caroline's kindness awakened something in him. Together, they initiated small acts of kindness, striving to alleviate the hunger and despair around them. They gathered friends and neighbors, creating a ripple of hope. Jack threw himself into this new purpose, feeling something unfamiliar: a feeling of community. Yet, he felt naked in his vulnerability, as the town's wealthy families glided by, eyes averted, unable to bear the reality of their former hero now down on his luck. The stigma of poverty clung to him, and every whisper and sideways glance felt like daggers. Jack gathered the courage to speak at a community meeting, a desperate attempt to connect. Sharing his story, he poured out the love for Timmy and the guilt that haunted him. Instead of compassion, he encountered cold indifference, a collective shrug of apathy. The pain stung sharper than the winter air. Defeated, he returned to the shadows, crumpling onto a grimy bench and allowing tears to pour forth, soaking his heavy heart. That night, Jack wrote a letter to Timmy. Every word cracked open the reservoir of his emotions, revealing not just his grief but also the profound love and legacy Timmy left behind. "I'm sorry, buddy," he wrote, "for not being able to protect you." The simple act of pouring his heart onto paper ignited a flicker of determination within him. It whispered of hope, of a path forward from the depths of his suffering. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when Jack thought he was lost forever, fate intervened with an unexpected inheritance. This gift unlocked not just a financial windfall but a resurgence of purpose. With renewed strength, he envisioned a community center dedicated to families like Caroline's, a place filled with warmth, compassion, and the very values that Timmy embodied. As word spread, the community rallied around him, their initial reluctance melting away. Hope breathed life into his endeavors. But soon, a crisis loomed, a challenge that could unravel all he had worked for. The doubt crept back like winter's chill, and Jack stood at a crossroad. Would he rise to meet this moment against all odds, or would the shadows of his past swallow him whole? As the town rallied, everyone looked to him for guidance, and the heavy weight of expectation pressed down. Jack had to face not just the town's need, but also the promise he made to Timmy. His journey was far from finished. As the sun rose the next morning, Jack stood in front of the empty lot where the community center would soon rise. He inhaled deeply, the sharp winter air filling his lungs, grounding him in this moment. Promises danced in his mind, visions flashed of laughter echoing through the halls, families gathering around tables sharing meals, children playing without a care. This was what he wanted to build: not just a building, but a sanctuary for those who felt invisible just like he had, but with that bright vision came a harsh reality. He had the ideas but lacked the resources to begin. The inheritance had dried faster than he anticipated, spent on necessities and on helping Caroline and her girls, who had become like family to him. Jack knew he needed to rally the community, but the fear of another indifference weighed heavily on his shoulders. He took a few steps forward, each one heavier than the last, until he stumbled upon Caroline. She was juggling her daughter's backpacks, their little hands clutching her legs, eyes wide and apprehensive about the day ahead. The sight ignited something in him. Their laughter rang out, pure and clear, reminding him of Timmy's carefree spirit. Without a thought, he approached her, determination bubbling up. "Caroline," he said, his voice shaky but earnest. "We need a meeting. I want to gather people, show them the plan for the center. I need their support." Her eyes lit up, a spark of the same warmth that had first drawn him in. "Absolutely, Jack. I'll help. We can set it up at the diner. It's the heart of the town." As they brainstormed, ideas burst forth like fireworks. Together, they crafted a flyer that would invite everyone, promising a glimpse of the future, igniting a sense of hope. Jack's heart raced at the thought of what they could achieve. But as the excitement took hold, doubt crept back in. What if they were met again with coldness and indifference? He shuffled restlessly, a swirl of emotions tearing him apart. Unexpectedly, his phone buzzed, jolting him from his spiraling thoughts. It was an email from a friend he had lost touch with years ago, an old business partner who now worked for a local foundation. He offered to help finance community projects, and immediately there was something inside Jack that began to shift, feeling a mix of disbelief and gratitude. He knew he had to give it a chance. That afternoon, together with Caroline and her daughters, they spread the word. As the community began to mobilize, there was a stir of excitement and nostalgia. Old friends who hadn't spoken in years began to reconnect, mending fragile threads of a community that had become frayed over time. The night before the meeting at the diner, Jack felt a flutter of fear. What if he couldn't rise to meet their expectations? What if it all fell apart? He paused and looked at the letter to Timmy lying on the table. "This is for you, buddy," he whispered softly, drawing strength from the love that had not waned with loss. The diner buzzed with energy the next evening, each seat filled with a face that carried its own story. Jack stood in front, heart pounding, facing a crowd ready to listen. The warmth of their presence soothed his nerves, and he spoke from the heart. He shared his journey, the pain, the hope, and the vision, but before he could breathe a sigh of relief, someone raised a hand from the back, eyes glinting with skepticism. "What if we fail?" they shouted, piercing through the moment like a cold wind. A murmur rippled through the crowd, and Jack's heart sank, a familiar chill creeping in. But instead of faltering, Jack cleared his throat, feeling Timmy's spirit beside him. "So what if we do?" he replied, voice steady now. "We will try again. Together. We owe it to ourselves and to those who need us." The atmosphere shifted, something palpable hanging in the air. The question remained, though, could they really overcome the doubts and fears? As he looked at the faces around him, Jack felt a wave of determination surge through him. He knew deep down that this was the beginning, and whatever came next, he had to be ready. What if the biggest challenge was yet to come? Could they face it together? Jack took a deep breath, letting the moment settle around him. The skepticism hadn't shattered the atmosphere but had instead ignited a fire in the crowd. Conversations bubbled up, and he could see heads nodding, eyes reflecting a shared sense of purpose. "Let us talk about what this center could do," Caroline chimed in, stepping forward as she always did with that prismatic energy. "We can create programs for kids, support groups, classes. There's so much potential." Jack felt that energy ripple through him, the idea solidifying. Not just a building, it was an opportunity for connection, healing, and transformation. With Caroline leading the charge, the diner buzzed with ideas. People tossed suggestions back and forth, igniting hopes and memories. A retiree who used to teach at the high school spoke of homework help for children. A single father recounted the isolation he felt after losing his job and how much a community center could mean to people like him. Jack's heart swelled. Each story felt like a thread being woven into a beautiful tapestry of community. The fear that had clutched at him began to loosen its grip. But just as he savored that moment, a tall man in a flannel shirt rose slowly from his seat. The diner quieted, anticipation hanging in the air. "I've lived in this town my whole life, and I'll be honest," he said, addressing Jack. "I want to believe in this idea, but we've tried and failed before. What makes this time different?" The question hung heavily, and Jack's chest tightened. Memories of past failures danced in his mind. How could he promise something now after so many disappointments? But he thought of Timmy, of what he would have wanted. "I can't predict the future," Jack said, a new steadiness in his voice. "But I do know that if we don't try, we'll never have the chance to change things. This isn't about me, it's about all of us, together. If one person falls, we lift them back up." Nods started to spread through the crowd, a collective understanding growing stronger. The man in flannel lowered his gaze, and Jack could almost see the wheels turning. "What do you want from us?" he finally asked, less guarded. "I want your voices, your stories," Jack replied, feeling a swell of courage. "I want you all to join in this fight. Bring ideas, bring energy, bring your doubts. Let us turn those doubts into solutions. This is something that belongs to all of us." A ripple of murmurs spread, excitement rising anew. Suddenly, it all felt real. Jack could see the glimmers of hope in the faces before him. Then, a small voice cut through the chatter, clear and innocent. It was Caroline's youngest, a girl of about 6. "Can we have a playground?" she asked, eyes wide with expectation. The room erupted in laughter, but Jack saw something deeper in that simple question: the yearning for joy and belonging. "Absolutely," Jack said, grinning. "We'll have a playground. We'll create a place filled with laughter and smiles." As the conversations regained momentum, Jack surveyed the room, his heart brimming with anticipation. They were crafting something together, a vision that extended beyond 4 walls and concrete, an extended family. But just as the energy peaking, Jack caught sight of someone slipping through the door. A familiar face from his past. His breath caught in his throat. Why had she come now? What did she want? As the energy surged in the diner with renewed vigor, Jack felt something shift again. The biggest challenges loomed just beyond the horizon. Would this unexpected visitor disrupt what they were building? Jack's mind raced ahead, and he steeled himself. They had come too far to turn back now. He needed to face whatever lay ahead with courage. What did she bring with her, and how would it change everything? The door swung wide, and there she stood. Emily. Jack hadn't seen her in years. The sight of her brought a rush of memories, some good, some painful. Her hair had grown longer, framing her face in soft waves, but the sadness in her eyes hadn't changed. The room quieted again, but not out of respect. It was a mixture of curiosity and tension. Jack felt the weight of every gaze on them. What is she doing here? He thought, anxiety creeping in. For a moment, Jack was lost in memories of their time together, laughing over Sunday brunch, sharing dreams. Then came the darkness, the quiet moments filled with unanswered questions and unspoken words that drove them apart. His heart stumbled, the past colliding with the present. "Jack," Emily started, her voice trembling slightly. I heard about what you're trying to do." She paused, fighting back the emotion. "I wanted to see it for myself." Jack felt a surge of emotions wash over him, confusion mixing with his determination. "You could be called," he said softly, trying to keep his voice steady, knowing they both had broken hearts in their own way. "I know," she said, moving cautiously toward him. "But I thought, maybe I could help." The crowd watched, whispering among themselves. Jack glimpsed Caroline frowning, unsure how to react. The energy from earlier seemed to flicker, dancing between the warmth they had built and the uncertainty that Emily's presence introduced. Help. The word echoed in his mind like an old song he'd almost forgotten. The past felt heavy at that moment, mingling with hope and despair. What can you offer that ever helped before? Jack asked, a hint of bitterness slipping through. She took a step closer, and he could see the pain etched on her features. I've changed, Jack. I've been through a lot. I know I walked away, but this, all of this, it's bigger than us. It's for the community. Jack's thoughts raced. How could he trust her? Was this a ploy? But he could see the sincerity in her eyes, the same fire that motivated him to fight for this community. Emotions buzzed around him like a live wire, full of potential but dangerous if mishandled. The diner felt both intimate and suffocating. Voices dropped, breaths held. His heart thudded as he contemplated what he wanted to say next. This isn't just a project, Emily. It's about healing, for all of us. Can you really commit to this? A nod. Simple yet powerful. I can. I want to be part of something meaningful. In a sea of uncertainty, the thought of uniting their strengths felt like a beacon of light. But fear nagged at him. Could he really trust her? His mind flashed back to Timmy, who believed in second chances even when they felt impossible. Before he could answer, the man in flannel, who had initially challenged Jack, spoke up again from the back. What's really going on here? His voice was steady but curious. If you're saying we all need to work together, we can't have secrets. Jack felt the truth of that statement. Could he let the past dictate the future? Could he open his heart again, especially with Timmy's voice echoing in the back of his mind? Emily looked at Jack, her eyes searching his for answers. In that moment, he felt the pulsing need for honesty wash over him. The courage to either embrace this new chapter or shut the door firmly on the past lay in his hands. Finally, taking a deep breath, he said, "Okay. Let us talk." What followed had the potential to change everything, but even as he spoke, another thought struck him. With Emily back in town, would they actually manage to make this dream a reality? Would their combined efforts be enough to heal old wounds and forge new connections? The diner buzzed with an energy both thrilling and daunting, a promise of things to come. Jack knew he would need to dive deeper and face the shadows of his past if they were to emerge stronger, and beneath the surface, that same unease silently whispered, was Emily truly ready to join him in this fight? The answer loomed heavy in the air, waiting to be discovered. Jack took a few steps forward, his heart racing. The room seemed to shrink around him, the noise of the diner fading into a muffled hum. Emily was looking at him with a mix of hope and fear, her eyes sparkling with unspent tears. "Let us sit, then," he finally said, motioning toward a corner booth. The space felt private, like their own little world amidst a gathering storm. As they settled down, Jack couldn't help but feel the tension shift. The weight of the past was still heavy over their heads, but there was also something new forming a fragile thread of possibility. "Where do we start?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He didn't want to drown in old wounds or run in circles around truths they both knew. Emily took a deep breath, glancing around at their observers before meeting his gaze again. "I've thought about this a lot. Coming back here brings back everything, the laughter, the pain. But what I went through in the last few years changed me." He nodded, urging her to continue. The warmth of old memories, shadowed by the chill of their separation, raced through him like a bittersweet melody. "You said you wanted to help. What does that look like?" "It means being present," she replied, a flicker of conviction lighting her face. "I want to help with your plan for the community. I know I made a mess of things before, but I can't stand by anymore. I want you to know I care." Her voice cracked on the last word, and Jack felt his resolve soften. Caroline had shifted in her seat, disbelief etched on her face. "And how do we know you won't just walk away again?" she interjected, crossing her arms. Emily turned to Caroline, her expression steady. "That's fair. I can't ask you to trust me. But I'm asking you to let me earn it." I won't let you down this time. Jack watched her, feeling the fight and weariness in her eyes. It reminded him of what he had wanted to believe all those years ago, a future, built together. But the weight of past betrayal still anchored him down. Look, we all want the same thing, he said, glancing around the diner where others were listening in. But trust isn't something we give away easily. It's earned in time. I know, she replied, her voice slightly stronger now. But this community needs us. It needs the energy and the love we can bring, together. It's about the people who believed in us. Who still believe. Silence fell in the booth as the truth of her words settled on them. The memories of Timmy surfaced again in Jack's mind, his laughter, his unwavering hope. Maybe there was a way to forge a new path, to honor that hope instead of retreating into bitterness. All right, he said finally, feeling a determination creep into his chest. Let us show them what we can do together. The whispers around them escalated, mixed with uncertainty and intrigue. Jack could see the change in the crowd's energy. People leaned in, eager to hear how this unlikely duo would tackle the challenges ahead. Before the conversation could dive deeper, one of the younger regulars at the diner, a girl named Mia, piped up from the other table. What if you guys start a fundraiser? Like, get people to donate? It could be a way to draw attention. Jack smiled at the girl's enthusiasm. That's a great idea. We could host an event to raise funds and awareness. Emily's eyes sparkled, and she moved a bit closer. Yes, and I know several local artists who might want to pitch in. Hope flickered, a flame igniting the tension that had so long held them captive. A sense of camaraderie began to flow through the gathered patrons, each person contemplating their role in this unfolding story. But just as Jack felt the current of energy shift into something positive, a sudden thought pierced his optimism. What unseen challenges lay ahead? Could they really unite this fractured community, especially with the shadows of their past looming over them? All right then, we've got a plan, Jack said, trying to mask the flicker of doubt. But can we truly pull this off? The room was alive with possibilities, yet somewhere deep, uncertainty lingered. How far were they willing to stretch their limits, to heal the wounds still open? That question echoed in the air, heavy but promising. Would they be strong enough to face the ghosts from yesterday as they leapt into an uncertain future? Emily's eyes widened as Jack wrestled with his trepidation. The buzz of chatter around them amplified, an orchestra of hope and skepticism. She sensed the veins of doubt running through him but also the flickering flame of resolve. Jack, she said softly, what if we started with something small? Something that reminds everyone what we lost, and why we have to fight for it now. Like a memorial? He asked, the idea stirring something deep within him. Exactly, she affirmed. Remember Timmy's last fundraiser? Everyone came together. It was more than just raising money, it was about unity. We need to honor that. At her mention of Timmy, Jack's heart ached. The void left by his absence felt like an old friend, a phantom that has lingered just out of reach, familiar yet painful. He nodded slowly, the idea gaining traction in his mind. That a chorus of murmurs erupted from the diner patrons, some nodding in approval, others still unsure. Caroline leaned in closer, her demeanor shifting. You really think we can do this? Together? Jack looked at Emily, the flicker of determination in her eyes igniting something deep within him. Yes, he said firmly. If we do it for Timmy, for this community, we can find our way back. We owe it to him. The room fell into a hushed silence, the gravity of their words settling around them. Mia, still bursting with excitement, raised her hand again. What if we invited everyone? All of Timmy's friends, the families in the neighborhood. It should be a celebration of hope. Emily's smile widened. And we can involve the schools, get the kids to share their talents, maybe even a talent show. Jack felt an inkling of a smile creep onto his lips. All right, that's it. We'll make this a weekend affair. Food, music, art will turn this place into a beacon of what we can create together. As enthusiasm spread like wildfire among the crowd, Jack felt a warmth building in the pit of his stomach. It was the spark they needed, something vital amidst the wreckage of their past. Inspired, Caroline offered her support. "We can rally the businesses nearby. They might be willing to contribute. If we get the word out soon, we can reach even more people." Jack nodded, fighting back an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The community wasn't just watching anymore, they were stepping forward. Their walls began to crumble, brick by brick. "Let's plan everything carefully," Jack said, a new determination fueling his words. "We need to meet again, get everyone on board. We can create something lasting." Emily reached for his hand, and as their fingers brushed, the touch sent a jolt of electricity through him. It was a quiet acknowledgement that perhaps they were rebuilding not just the community but something between them, too. "Let's promise we won't let the shadows of our past lead us," Emily vowed softly. Jack squeezed her hand back, warmth enveloping them both. "We deserve this chance. For us, for Timmy, everything we want starts here." Murmurs of agreement surged through the diner as plans began swirling. But as excitement bubbled over, Jack's inner voice struggled to keep pace. Was it too late for them? Could they really inspire change while navigating their own tumultuous history? With the weight of possibility in the air, Jack couldn't shake the gnawing question: what if old wounds cut deeper than they anticipated? What challenge would emerge, threatening to unravel everything they had just begun to weave together? The answers remained elusive, wrapped in uncertainty and hope. Jack knew they had ignited something powerful, but could they confront the unknown that was bound to follow? The following morning, Jack awoke to the sound of rain tapping gently against his window. It mirrored the swirling thoughts in his mind, a storm brewing just below the surface. The excitement from the dinner buzzed around him, yet the weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever. How do you honor someone's memory when you carry the burden of old regrets? After a quick breakfast, Jack made his way to the park where they had decided to hold the memorial. The familiar trees loomed like guardians, watching over the patchy grass that had once been the backdrop to countless childhood dreams. He felt a pang of nostalgia and loss as he thought of Timmy and all the laughter that had filled this space. Emily arrived shortly after, her hair slightly damp from the rain, but her spirit was bright. She approached with purpose, handing him a folder filled with notes and ideas. "I had some thoughts about the layout of the event. Maybe we should set up a section dedicated to Timmy." "That's perfect," Jack replied, flipping through her notes. He felt a spark of hope ignite in his chest. Every detail they discussed seemed to pull the community a little closer. They weren't just planning an event, they were weaving a tapestry of memories, love, and unity. As they brainstormed, Mia showed up, her excitement bubbling over. "I talked to the principal. The school is totally on board. We can get a lot of kids to perform. It'll be amazing." Her enthusiasm was contagious, and Jack couldn't help but smile. The more they discussed, the more people began to drift into the park, some curious about the gathering, others catching the wave of energy and purpose that was building in their small circle. New faces mingled with familiar ones, a mix woven together by shared sorrow and hope. Yet, even as they formed plans and painted the future in vibrant strokes, Jack caught glimpses of uncertainty on the faces of those watching from a distance. He could sense the hesitation swirling like fog around them. He knew the wounds were deep, especially for those who had lost their own loved ones. "Hey, can we talk?" Caroline interrupted, pulling Jack aside. Her brow was knitted, the corners of her mouth uncertain. "I want to support this, but what if it's too much? What if we dig up feelings that are still raw?" Jack took a deep breath, absorbing her concerns. "I get it. But do you think Timmy would want us to stay hidden in sadness? We need to share our love and our losses. It's healing for all of us." Caroline nodded slowly, her expression calming. "I want to believe that. I really do." Just then, Emily returned, her eyes filled with determination. "I just thought of a way we can get everyone involved. What if we set up a memory wall? People can post notes about their favorite memories with Timmy and others. Jack's heart soared at the suggestion. Yes. That's a beautiful idea. A space for everyone to remember and to feel connected. It was the type of healing that could ripple outward, reminding them all of the bonds they shared. As preparations continued, a few townsfolk hesitantly approached the growing group, curiosity warming them against the original chill. A spark of hope flickered within Jack, a sense that perhaps they could bridge gaps with shared memories, but with every conversation and new idea, doubt slithered through Jack's mind. What if the willingness to remember turned into pain? What if bringing everyone together was a mistake that reopened wounds that had barely healed? The rain began to let up, leaving a refreshing scent in the air. Jack gazed around, seeing the community begin to transform from silent witnesses to active participants. Yet a sense of unease curled around his heart. Would it all come together as they envisioned, or would it unravel? The day of the memorial loomed, full of potential yet shrouded in uncertainty. They were on the brink of something profound, but would they be able to hold the threads together when faced with their shared grief? With questions looming like clouds overhead, Jack steeled himself. The real test was yet to come, and he wondered, what would it take to turn their pain into a strength that could bind them together instead of tearing them apart? Jack woke up the next day, feeling more determined than before. The rain had cleared, leaving behind a crisp, fresh air that seemed to promise a new beginning. Today was different. Today was the memorial. It would either be a beautiful celebration of Timmy's life or a painful reminder of what they had lost. He took a moment to gather his thoughts, recalling the child's laughter, innocence, and endless curiosity that had touched everyone's hearts. As Jack made his way back to the park, he noticed more people milling about than he anticipated. Families were beginning to set up picnic blankets, and children could be seen running around, their laughter mingling with the chirping of the birds. It felt surreal to see this place filled with life, a stark contrast to the grief that had enveloped it not too long ago. Emily was already there, directing some volunteers as they set up the memory wall. Bright colors and cheerful decorations transformed the space. "Look at this, Jack. Isn't it coming together beautifully?" she exclaimed, her face beaming with excitement. "It really is," he said, feeling his own enthusiasm rise. The bonds within the community were beginning to strengthen, and for the first time since Timmy's passing, Jack felt a glimmer of hope. Mia bounced over with a handful of flyers promoting the performances. "We've got a great lineup. Kids from everywhere are coming. It's all about celebrating, just like we talked about." Her energy was infectious, and Jack couldn't help but grin. However, amidst the excitement, Jack noticed a woman standing alone at the edge of the crowd. It was Anna, a neighbor he hadn't spoken to in years. They had both lost children, and their paths had diverged after shared grief twisted into silence. He hesitated, torn between getting lost in the festivities and confronting the very pain that connected them. "Do you know her?" Emily asked, noticing Jack's hesitance. "A long time ago, we shared something, but it feels so distant now," he replied. The weight of his past choices began to press down heavier, like a thundercloud before a storm. "Maybe this is your chance to reconnect," Emily encouraged gently. Jack took a breath and walked toward Anna, each step feeling heavier than the last. When he was close enough to see the shadows beneath her eyes, he stopped. "Anna, it's been a while." Her gaze met his, guarded and pained. "Jack," she said quietly. "I didn't expect to see you here. I didn't know if you'd come. I wanted to honor our kids. I just..." His voice faltered. "I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." The silence that followed felt like a chasm between them, filled with unspoken words and shared grief. Finally, Anna nodded, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "It hurt when you disappeared. I felt abandoned in my sorrow." Jack's heart sank. "I thought distancing myself would make it easier. I had no idea it would hurt you too." Anna looked at him closely, a mixture of anger and sadness crossing her features. "We all hurt. But we can't keep carrying this weight. We need to remember, to heal." The words struck Jack with clarity. Together, they had both bore a burden neither needed to carry alone. They stood there for a moment, locked in an understanding that had long been absent. "I'd like to help with the memory wall," she finally said, a hint of a smile breaking through her tears. "That would mean a lot," he replied, hope blooming where uncertainty once lingered. As they headed back toward the festivities, Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. There was power in connection, in sharing both the pain and joy of memories lost and found. People began to gather, forming a circle around the growing memory wall, laughter slowly piercing through the heaviness, but in the midst of the moment, a familiar face emerged from the crowd, a face Jack had hoped to never see again. As the seconds ticked by, the sense of dread crept in. What did this person want? How would this impact the fragile bond they'd just begun to rebuild? With a pounding heart and a tightening throat, Jack braced himself for what was about to unfold. The chill of unease wrapped around Jack like a dense fog as he turned to face the newcomer. Jonah. The name sent a ripple of memories coursing through him, dark memories filled with unresolved anger and pain. Jonah had been part of a past Jack wished he could erase. The bitter taste of old grievances resurfaced, and he felt his heart race. "Jack," Jonah called out, his voice cutting through the cheerful sounds of laughter and celebration. The distance between them felt insurmountable, and yet Jonah stepped forward, his grin stretching too wide against the sadness swirling in the air. "What are you doing here?" Jack couldn't keep the edge from his tone. "I came to pay my respects," Jonah replied, brows furrowing slightly. "I wouldn't miss it. We're all hurting, right?" It was the same excuse that had always haunted Jack, the dismissal of their shared grief and its weight. Jack felt the stirrings of defense rise in him, but he glanced at Anna. Her eyes were wide, caught between curiosity and wariness. Jack exhaled slowly, trying to create a shield around the moment, to shield Anna from the past that wanted to intrude. "For respect?" Jack asked. "Respect doesn't include showing up uninvited after everything?" Each word felt heavy and pointed, laced with years of hurt. Jonah's expression faltered but was quickly replaced by something like determination. "I know I've messed up, but can't we at least try to be civil today?" Jack shook his head, a mix of anger and heartbreak flaring in his chest. "You left. You're not a ghost from the past we need today. Timmy deserves better than that." "I'm not just a ghost," Jonah snapped, a spark igniting in his eyes. "I'm someone who lost a child too, Jack. Don't think for a second that you're alone in this. I understand your pain." Taken aback, Jack almost felt a flicker of empathy break the hardened armor around his heart. How could Jonah claim to understand when their experiences diverged so sharply? But the moment was fleeting, snuffed out by long years of betrayal and resentment. Anna stepped slightly in front of Jack. "This isn't about you, Jonah. It's about our kids. You can leave if you can't respect that." Her voice was resolute, but Jack felt the tremor throughout her frame. Wait, Jonah held up his hands as if it could absolve him from judgment. "I didn't come to argue. Honestly, I saw the flyer. I wanted to do right by my son, too. I thought I could help, maybe find a way to help." Jack interrupted, the incredulity in his voice ringing clear. "You think you can just show up and play the hero?" The tension crackled like an electric charge in the air. Others were starting to notice the escalating confrontation. Groupings of friends and families paused, exchanging worried glances. Mia hovered nearby, biting her lip, unsure whether to intervene or simply step back. "Does it always have to be like this?" Jonah's shoulders slumped as his defenses lowered. "I'm tired of running from my past. I want to make things right, Jack. For both of us, for the boys." Silence fell, heavy with mistrust and desperation. Jack's heart raced as he looked from Jonah to Anna, who had shifted her eyes between them, conflicted. Perhaps this wasn't just about him. Maybe, in Jonah's broken words, there lay a shared need they all felt. That he felt his resolve weaken when he noticed a new expression on Anna's face, hope mingled with caution. What if this man could be a part of their collective healing, but the moment shattered when Jack noticed a commotion near the edge of the crowd, the sound of raised voices rising over the music. "What now?" he muttered, torn between the two conversations unfolding before him. As he turned, fear already gripping at his gut, he sensed that this day, the day meant to celebrate love and remembrance, might be descending into chaos. The weight of unresolved emotions pressed heavily, and the shadow of loss loomed larger than before. Jack took a shaky breath, both troubled and determined. Would today truly bring healing, or was it merely the beginning of a tempest? For better or worse, they were all tangled up in a storm now, and he could only wonder what the next moment held. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the community park. Jack could hear the laughter and chatter woven through the soft breeze, yet within him churned a storm of anxiety. The memorial was meant to rekindle hope, spark connection, and remember Timmy, but now, with Jonah's arrival and the disturbance brewing at the edge of the crowd, he wondered if it would unravel. Jonah stood before him, vulnerable yet defiant. Jack's heart thudded like a hammer against his chest. Could a moment of honesty exist here, amidst the layered pain? Instead of retreating, he drew a deep breath, grounding himself in the love and memory of his boy. "You say you understand loss, but it doesn't give you the right to waltz back into people's lives when they're finding their way to healing." Jonah stiffened at the words but didn't look away. "No, it doesn't." Jack's anger wavered. "What do you want from us?" He needed to know if Jonah truly wanted redemption or merely wished to quell his own guilt. "I want to help," Jonah said, his voice cracking. "I don't want to just be the guy who let everyone down. Can you give me a chance?" Jack could see the ache mirrored in Jonah's eyes. They were two fathers, fractured by loss, bound by an invisible thread of sorrow. Before Jack could respond, the commotion at the edge escalated. Groups of people shifted, and he could hear raised voices growing louder. With dread knotting his stomach, he turned. The crowd had parted to reveal a confrontation. Some neighbors argued, emotions flaring over the memorial's purpose. Were they ready to face grief, or would bringing it all into the open drown them? Jack stepped forward, feeling the heavy weight of realization settle onto his shoulders. "Everyone," he called, his voice steadying against the rising tide of anger. "This isn't just about the pain we carry. This is about honoring all of our kids. We need to remember that even if it's hard." As the crowd quieted, Jack's heart beat louder in his ears, but he pressed on. Today is about sharing stories, laughter, and love. It's messy, and it's raw, but it's also what we need to heal together. A familiar face from the crowd stepped forward. It was Anna, her eyes shining in the fading sunlight. "We all carry pieces of sorrow," she said, her voice soft yet firm. "But we must weave them into something beautiful. A memory wall, a playground, it's not just bricks and paint, it's life for our children, a legacy of love." That spark of hope ignited the air. Jack could feel the energy shift once more. He sensed the crowd beginning to unite. "Exactly," Jack replied, his heart swelling. "What if, in remembering today, we set the foundation to build a brighter tomorrow? For our kids left behind. For their laughter, their joy." Jonah nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding crossing his features. "We need this," he said. "Let us not push each other away, but come together instead. This can't bring everyone to healing, perhaps, but we can start. For our sons. For every kid lost and every memory untouched." Encouraged by this exchange, and with Anna by his side, Jack stepped toward the gathering crowd. He raised his arms, inviting everyone to bridge gaps instead of reinforcing them. And one by one, hesitant hands reached out, voices began to overlap, and laughter swelled again amongst them, a hum of memory creating a sturdy bond. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the park in a soft, warm glow, Jack breathed in deep, relief washing over him. "Let us do this together," he called out, eyes shining with unspent tears. "Let us remember, not just sorrow but the laughter. Let us give our kids a future worth living." As they formed a circle, hands connecting, the weight of loss transformed into warmth. Jonah, standing shoulder to shoulder with Jack, nodded in understanding. The collective grief felt less daunting, as they all carried a piece of it together now. Words, laughter, and memories flowed freely that day. As the crowd began to share, there was healing in the air. Jack felt Timmy's spirit there with them, resonating the truth of love over loss. Teaching them to grow, just as flowers do beneath layers of snow. Hours passed, conversations flourished, and the memory wall filled up with beautiful notes, reminders of who they'd lost and their timeless impact. Jack stepped back, taking in the view of the memory wall, strewn with colors, dripping with love and loss, and for the first time in a long while, he felt light. Jack turned toward Jonah, embracing the opportunity for reconciliation and realizing that maybe, even the hardest battles could forge unexpected alliances. This community, which had once seemed so fractured, was slowly rebuilding. They were stronger together, forging a family through shared sorrow and the promise of tomorrow. The promise of laughter, love, and healing promised warmth in the coldest corners. As the last rays of the sun dipped beneath the horizon, Jack whispered a silent thank you to Timmy. "We did it, buddy," he murmured, tears spilling without shame. And as other voices joined in harmony, he knew they had crossed a threshold, one that led them toward the future and the light of unity. Now, more than ever, he understood, the threads of loss could weave something beautiful, something powered by love, compassion, and the courage to embrace connection. And just like that, Jack emerged not just as a father mourning his son, but as a man ready to embrace life again and lead his community from shadows into light. If you felt this journey, I urge you to take action. You need to subscribe now to our channel for more inspirational stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us know how you felt about this ending in the comments. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could really use this transformation. Let us spread hope together.